Hello and welcome to another edition of Drought Watch in our series of climate videos. Today we are looking at the drought situation for the United States. And you will see here, for the most part, drought conditions do remain for a large chunk of the United States, especially in the Central Plains from Texas on north into the Dakotas, right on up to the Canadian border, with the worst drought being in Oklahoma and Kansas, where there are exceptional drought conditions. West Coast and California, there's still some drought conditions there as well. Severe drought continues out in California. Slight improvement has been made in the Four Corners region, but it is still relatively dry there. In the Northeast, now this updated on Thursday, October 13th, so this may actually be a little bit off. Connecticut on up into Maine saw a fair share amount of rain. So it is still showing relatively abnormally dry to moderately dry. I think that's probably actually improved a little bit more. In Pennsylvania, for example, majority of the drought, except for one little spot here in western Pennsylvania where it's still just a little bit dry, has improved because, as well, we saw rain here. And we'll take a look here at the overall rainfall amounts. Florida, except for the western panhandle, not much in the way of drought conditions. Georgia is a little dry. Great Lakes are running a little bit dry. Continuing on north here. And the Northwest is running moderately in a drought. Believe it or not, Seattle's in a drought. Everyone thinks of Seattle as, oh, it always a city that continuously gets rain. That's not always true. They actually do tend to get a period where it's dry, and this year it's been drier than normal. All right, taking a look at the national precip totals over the last 7 days, and we're going to include Alaska in this. Let's first talk about Alaska. Alaska saw a massive I guess you could call it subtropical storm that made landfall on the southern Alaska coast. And look at this. They have even areas that have as high as 10 to 20 inches of rainfall. If we zoom in here, yes, this white is 20 plus inches of rain right along the coast. Just very impressive. And other areas surrounding that saw anywhere from 5 to 10 inches of rain. Take a look at the west coast. As noted, Seattle's been dry, so therefore they are in drought conditions. California, trivial, maybe a quarter of an inch of rain in some spots down near Los Angeles. Nothing impressive. Four Corners region and western Texas did see a little bit of a beneficial rainfall, anywhere from half an inch to as high as 3 inches of rain in these yellow areas. And those little red dots, that's 4 plus inches of rain. Take a look here in the northern plains. There was a little bit of precipitation, but not much. Montana, you saw a little bit of rainfall, upwards of half an inch to an inch. Continuing over to the Great Lakes, you'll notice here there's been some moisture in the Great Lakes, which is beneficial. And right along the coastlines, there's going to continue to be some moisture, and we'll show that when I get to the weather models here in a second. Take a look at the southeast. Southeast was rather unsettled and wet, and there was generally 1 to 3 inches of rainfall. Now taking a look at the northeast, from Pennsylvania on northward, we saw a good dose of rain Thursday evening. And again, I think in the next update next week, although it's not going to be that wet in the coming weeks for the week for the northeast, I do think that the drought map's going to improve even more so. It was still raining in some of these areas at the time of the update, so therefore it didn't all register, especially in Maine. And if you look at Maine, Maine saw anywhere from 2 to 4 inches of rainfall in these yellows and through the orange color, so that's very good. Massachusetts, Vermont, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, you saw anywhere from general 1 to 2 inches, even isolated 2 plus inches of rainfall. So that was very beneficial here. And the Mid-Atlantic, you kind of missed out on the heaviest of this rainfall, but over the last week you did see anywhere from 1/10 of an inch to upwards. Some spots did see close to 1 inch of rain. Alrighty, CPC Climate Prediction Center, 6 to 10 days. Look at this. This is some good news. Above average precipitation out on the west coast, near normal in the central plains, that's not good, and below or normal in the east. 8 to 14 days, more areas go to above normal. And look at Alaska, above normal again. And I should go back to 6 to 10 day real quickly. 6 to 10 day did also show Alaska being above normal. and 8 to 14 day more above normals, and the eastern coast is near normal. I could almost say maybe parts of the mid-Atlantic. I disagree with this. It might actually go below normal, and you'll see why here in the models. All right, looking at the GFS. GFS does show some unsettled weather for portions of California, Nevada, and here in Arizona and New Mexico. Check this out. Look what happens here. And it does spread into Texas. So western Texas, you're going to see a little bit more beneficial rainfall, but it's not going to really add up to much, at least not for that system. And now we're looking at Tuesday. But look at the northeast here. You see this huge upper level low, this huge low that's going to be spinning over the Great Lakes. And look what that does. Let's flip this here to show frozen precipitation. There we go. That actually provides a constant northwest wind off the lakes, which, as we know, cold winds at this time of year with still relatively warm lake waters generates clouds and generates precipitation. So there will actually be lake effect snow showers, lake effect rain showers, and areas right along the coastlines there could see a decent amount of precipitation if you get this persistent banding that sets up these lake effect bands. So therefore those areas could see a good amount of precipitation. Some areas could see upwards of an inch plus of precipitation. And there could even be a coating to a couple inches of snow if it's cold enough and the precipitation comes at nighttime in some of these areas. As you can see here, look at this. The GFS actually hints at some heavier snow squalls in western New York on 18Z Wednesday, so that's Wednesday afternoon. Whether it would stick at that time of day, it's hard to say. Sun angle's still high, and you're dealing with a time of day where it would be warmer, but nonetheless, it's showing you a sign that, hey, it is getting to be that time of year. Looking at the rest of the country, continuing on here, look at this, relatively dry on the GFS. But, look in the northwest. Wetter pattern does potentially set up next weekend for Seattle, which is what they're more normal accustomed to for this time of year. But look at the higher elevations. Yes, that's snowfall. And coming up pretty soon, probably starting next week, we're going to do videos called Snow Patrol. We'll be tracking snow events around the country, and that will be the purpose of those videos. Whether it be small or big, anywhere in the country that's seeing snow, we'll be tracking it. And look at this. This system actually does continue east, develops into a trough, and then that trough does come down into the Great Lakes, and it forms another system. And look at that, you get more precipitation, but now we're 240 hours out. This will likely change in the next run. If I switch over to the CMC real quickly, the Canadian model, you're going to see a completely different result. But it does still show this trough that's going to come into the east, provide the below average temperatures, and create for some wetter than normal conditions coming off of the Great Lakes. So that is going to help those dry conditions. It's not going to fully eradicate it, but it is going to help. And I think it's going to diminish the amount of dryness that you see on the drought monitor map. Continuing into the long-range CMC, it does also show some unsettled weather into the northwest. The rest of the country on the CMC is relatively dry, aside from this cold front that crosses late next weekend into the early following week across the Great Lakes. Other than that, it's relatively quiet across the country. So overall, there's going to be some minor improvement in the drought in Texas. Nothing major. It's mainly western Texas. Some precipitation in the Great Lakes, some precipitation in the northwest. The rest of the country, you're looking relatively quiet with below normal temperatures in the east and above average temperatures in the southwest. Alrighty, thanks for watching this Climate Watch update. Look for more Climate Watch updates in the coming days when we start our new series, Snow Patrol. If you want to see more videos like this, hit like and subscribe down below. Thanks for watching.